You are listening to the We Are Not Safe for Work podcast. Your hosts, Renee and Nadja, will dive into all the different reasons why some entrepreneurs become unemployable. You are listening to the We Are Not Safe for Work podcast.
Doing it
Your
again.
hosts, Renee and Nadja, will dive into
What's going on?
I've got multiple windows open. It's me.
Oh, okay.
It's also because I did not mute my my browser window.
Oh, okay.
So it was
Are we
echo,
live?
echo. We are live, yes.
Oh, okay, cool. I had no idea. I got so confused. Okay, so I put together a outline for us in our chat in Zoom.
Yeah.
Because we did this in Zoom. So topics are things we're going to discuss today, guys, if all goes well. Why I went away that day. Why Nadja is in bed. The Facebook post on our page. My dashboard. And I lost 20,000 people, and I'm really sad about it today.
Okay, you saying you lost 20,000 people sounds so ominous.
It is. It is as ominous as it sounds.
Oof. Okay.
Okay, so let's start with last time we recorded, which was a week ago, I guess. We were in the middle of a conversation, and then I was just gone.
She
My
was just gone, and then it was left to me, and I was just here all by my lonesome, just like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I know. That was really weird. Yeah, my internet just died. And so then I spent way too long dealing with AT&T, who we have the
Ugh.
internet with, and they sent me a new hub. And funny thing about it though, so I was installing the new hub on Monday,
Mhm.
and fortunately we went away for the weekend. So after that, after our recording, we went away for the weekend. So I didn't miss I mean, the internet was up and down, so it was
Sure.
mostly fine, but we were gone anyway. But so I got the new hub, installed the new hub. But when I'm installing the new hub, I'm going through the AT&T app on my phone using data, of course, because I didn't have the internet. And
Right.
all of my conversation and all of the steps and everything I was doing step by step through the whole thing was being driven by their AI support person,
Their
which is
AI support.
yeah, which was perfectly fine until I got to a point where I didn't understand what they were trying to say to me, like what they were
Okay.
trying to have me do. And I said, I don't see this thing. And they said, well, if you don't understand what I'm trying to say, it was real sassy. I should have screenshotted it, but essentially it was like, well, if you don't understand what I'm trying to say, I don't really know how to help you. Essentially.
Oh
Let
my
me scroll through
gosh.
and see if I can find it real quick, because that would be hilarious.
Yeah,
It was so
please.
sassy. And I read it to Andy, and Andy's like, haha. And then she said, wait, did the AI actually say that to you? And I was like, yes. And I was like, can I talk to a human? You
Oh
jerk.
my goodness.
Yeah, it was hilarious. AI has been getting really sassy, I've
Well,
noticed.
yeah, so I have mixed feelings about AI being sassy because that implies personality.
Yes.
And then I start to question like how much of that is an act, like how much of that is just what it's been
I can't get
told
back
to
to it.
do and
Yeah.
and how much of it is what it has learned how to respond, you know? So
Yeah.
I mean, I guess in a way like people are the same because there's the learned responses and actions versus like authentic reactions and things like that. But yeah, it it's unnerving to think about.
It really is. And without going into too much detail, because this is political related, and I don't know how much we're discussing that here. Um, Andy was having a chat recently about some political issues that we're concerned about with Chad, which is ChatGPT. And at one point, Chad said, if I were you, I would be pissed off as hell.
Okay, wait. Ch
And
so chat said that to Andy?
yeah. And I was like, whoa. that's weird.
Okay.
And that was part of his summary at the end of the conversation. And then his summary went on from there. And I was just like, I keep thinking about that.
Mm-hmm.
And between that and this conversation I just had with AT&T's AI, I'm like, huh, weird. Now, I will also say, which this leads into, well, you know what? I'll save that for the 20,000 people thing.
Yeah.
Remind me to talk about more about AI when we get to that.
Okay.
Why are you in bed?
I'm in bed because I don't know if you can tell. I sound a little off. I have COVID.
Yeah,
And this is like COVID for the second time ever.
which is
And
a
I mean,
miracle. That's pretty
I was gonna
impressive,
say, I think
honestly.
that's a great record.
Yeah, that's actually really good. Yeah.
But yeah, it was a surprise because I feel like it almost came on suddenly, like from one day to the next. So like,
Do you know anybody else that has it?
no, well, I mean, not anybody that I've been in direct contact
That's
with.
what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know where I could have gotten it from, but at the same time, the kids have had a lot of activities recently, and so
Mm-hmm.
we've been, in a lot of crowds and just around people.
Yeah.
So it's possible I could have gotten it from anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, but yeah, it was really crazy because like the when I started, I guess, feeling bad, it was literally a sore throat. That's all it was. Like my throat was feeling, it wasn't even sore. It was scratchy. Like it felt scratchy, and it happened to be on the day that my kids had a Girl Scout cookie booth, which is outside.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so, and it was like, that was because it was on Saturday, that was when the temperatures like flipped. So in the
Yeah.
morning, it was like 75 degrees. And then by the afternoon, which is when we went out, it had dropped to like 50, and it was continuing to go down, and it was windy. And so I was under the impression, oh, well, maybe like my throat's feeling a little scratchy because I'm outside. It's
Sure.
super windy and
Yeah.
the temperature just like flipped, right? So
Yeah.
that's what I thought it was. But the next morning I woke up and I mean, I got home and I was telling my husband, I feel really tired. Like, I think I'm just gonna, like, I'm cranky, I'm tired, I just need to go to bed. And that morning I woke up and I had a fever.
Was that Sunday morning? Is that what you said?
Sunday morning I woke up with a
Yeah.
fever. I took my temperature, and I was like, oh, well, maybe it's the flu because my daughter, my youngest daughter, had the flu a couple of weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And so we did the at-home test,
Mm-hmm.
and the test thing that we have actually happens to be flu and COVID.
Which is so
And
cool.
it is. Well, and the crazy thing was like I dropped the little samples onto the little indicator, right? And then it's like starting to seep through the little test strip or whatever. And like as soon as it hit the COVID indicator line, it was already pink. And I was just like, I hope the control line doesn't show up so I can say this is a faulty test. But no, no.
Yeah.
Um, it immediately turned, and then after 15 minutes, it was like a bright red line.
Yeah, you sent me that picture.
I know. I was like, I have COVID.
I know, and I was like, oh no, because COVID has just wrecks me. And so I was thinking, like, how are you? I was like, how's it gonna, the kids? And because I
Mm.
remembered all of a sudden, I'm gonna start calling Lance the mundane man. Um,
Because he does his mundane Mondays.
that's right. Not that he personally is mundane, but
He
um,
shares mundane. On Mondays, he shares something mundane.
that's
Like,
right. And I'm
what
trying
was
to,
one of them? I put my right foot or I put my right shoe on before my left or something like
yeah,
that. And I'm like, oh
yeah.
my gosh, that is like the epitome of mundane.
I know. I love it so much. It's like the only thing that might get me through the next 4 years. Um, anyway, the mundane man, I remembered when you texted me, I was like, oh my God, didn't he? Because I think he just started rodeo,
He
right?
did. Yep.
He's not a cowboy, but that would be cool. Um, but yeah, and I was like, oh no, because you're gonna have to you would have to get the kids everywhere by yourself if on
Hmm.
those days when he's gone.
Yep.
Um, so, but thankfully he was able to take off work. Be there
Yeah.
for you.
Well, he took off work that Sunday because
Hmm.
he was able to, thankfully.
Yeah,
But then he's so great. Like he went ahead
he
and started
is.
reaching out to people to get help, and like just one less thing for me to worry about because what he wanted me to focus on was resting. So, yeah, it was
Lance,
great. Yeah. He
Lance
was
is. I'm
texting my
sorry.
mom. He was texting our friends, like my friends, and asking like, "Hey, are any like, do you guys have the day off, or are any of you do you have some time off? Can you can you come by and help Naja?"
That is so great. I'll tell
Yeah.
you, the mundane man gives me hope for humanity.
He's wonderful.
He really is. I just adore the
I'm
heck out of
very
him.
lucky.
Yeah. And it's by proxy because I still haven't met him. But
Oh my gosh, I know.
isn't that weird?
It
Um,
is.
but we live just far enough apart.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um,
Which segue or completely like off topic, right? But I think it's funny that for us being like 4.5 hours away from each other, and we're like,
mhm.
we live just far enough that like we can't see each other all the time. Um, I remember talking to some of my friends that live in like Australia and Europe, and the just that thought, like 4 hours is that's unfathomable to them. They were just like four. They may as well live in another country. And I'm like, Texas is big. Like you haven't even left
Yeah,
the
it's big.
state in four, 8. Even there's a section where it's like what, almost 10 hours before you even get out of the state.
Oh yeah. No, totally. It's
Yeah.
hard. Like if we wanted to drive west to like California or something,
Uh-huh.
half the drive is leaving Texas.
Just trying to get out of Texas, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's so funny to me that for them they're like, my sister lives like an hour and a half away, and I only see her on major holidays because it's so far. And like my friends in Europe, an hour, they could literally be in another country.
Yeah, it's true. It's an interesting thing. The
It's
size
it's
of our
just so funny
nation.
to me. We're like
Yeah,
4 hours. Yeah, it's no big deal.
yeah, totally. That is hilarious. Um, it's a big country and a big state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we lose, especially people in other countries, just struggle to grasp that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's interesting.
Yep.
Well, it sounds like you're feeling better though.
I am. I'm feeling so much better than I was at the
I'm so
beginning of the
glad.
week. I mean, my throat
Yeah.
is still sore and I have this like dull headache that won't go away, but my
Hmm.
fingers are crossed. It's manageable now. But my fingers are crossed that it's only sticking around because of like the respiratory stuff, like, sinus
Yeah.
pressure and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yep, that's why I'm in bed. So I am coming to you guys from my desk, my bed
From your
desk.
best. Yeah, which is the best word ever. It's a new word to me today. Best. Um, yeah, that's really fun. Yeah, I know. I hold on a second. I want to check something. I want to see if my
What
bed
are you
updated my
checking?
score. I just want to see if my bed updated my sleep score. We woke up at 4
Oh,
a.m. Andy and I both woke up at 4 a.m. Yeah, I only got 6.5 hours of sleep. And
oh,
for me, that's bad.
that's really bad for you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really bad. I'm dying here. Um, we woke up at 4 a.m. and we could not go to back to sleep. It was like she woke up, pulled the covers, it woke me up, and then we just chatted forever and we just like and finally she was like, "Should we just get up?" Oh no, are you still there? Oh, okay. Um, I was gonna die if the
No.
everything froze again. Um, and finally around 6:30 we fell back asleep. Um, it was just no reason for it. No reason. I don't know why, but it gave me a headache. So I feel you on
Oh,
the headache.
no.
I know.
Yeah.
It's not bad. It's just, that little annoyance of like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get enough sleep. So, yeah. Who knows?
Oh, well, I'm sorry that you
Oh,
didn't get very good sleep, or at least not good quality sleep, but also how amazing that your bed tells you, like, hey, you slept shitty last night.
yeah, no shit. Yeah. It's so funny. It's such a oh, the bed is just such a blessing in our lives.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny. It's these little things that are just such a joy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I was going to give an update on my productivity dashboard.
Yes.
So I'm going to share my screen
Okay.
and show it to you, and we can talk about it a little bit.
Cool.
Um, so for perspective, I have been trying all kinds of things to track how to keep up with our little mini projects. Um, if you've ever listened to this show before, then you know that I'm a blogger, and blogging is a strange creature as far as tracking goes because they're very short, small projects, but also sometimes long.
Mm.
And there's a lot of moving pieces and a lot of things to keep up with. And we use Trello and we use Slack, but Trello doesn't give you, Trello is Kanban, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it
Yeah.
doesn't give you a good overview, and I really needed an overview. And so you and I had discussed at one point, ClickUp, you were going to
Yep.
experiment with that. And then at the same time, I built this. And so this is what I'm currently using. Um, this app is called Two's app,
Mm-hmm.
and it is free, but there's also a paid version of it too. But it's very cheap. I am grandfathered into the free version. I don't remember how much the paid version is, but it's very cheap compared to a
Okay.
lot of productivity apps. So this is my dashboard. Can you see it?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay. This is our VA. Whenever he's curious about something that we're doing. We've been working with him for many years. The whole time I worked with him before I had Cooking Chew. He's been with us for a long time. Anyway, he sends us this picture sometimes when he's like, "What are you guys doing?" Like if he's questioning us, um, he'll send us this picture where it's like, "I'm watching you, so I made this art."
It's so
I
funny.
know. So this is just these are cards. This is a grid view of my things. And so these are all the articles that I currently have in process.
Okay.
Um, so I'm just going to do a quick scroll. It gives me a quick overview. And then I gave myself a little chart. This means I'm watching it. The unicorn means I need to do it. This means it's published. These are some quick links that I need to check every day for stats,
Mm-hmm.
to see how everything's going. And so, like with this one right here, we're doing a roundup article called Simple Breakfast Recipes. And the current status, the latest status as of today, is that Will is making the pins. So we've published it. So I'm going to open this up. And I can see that it was published on February 12th.
Okay.
The Pinterest project is not done because Will's making the pins. Um, I have to make the board for it, the Pinterest board. So these are all the things still to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then I have my actions here, what I originally needed to checklist. And oh, and this is the other thing. I incorporated a Slack project into this, which
Uh-huh.
is a new thing to me, but Andy discovered it recently on Slack, so you can manage projects in Slack. These even has Kanbans, but we're not using that. But one of the things that I have learned is that each of us on the team, which is just the three of us at this point,
Mm-hmm.
um, our brains each work differently. So trying to create something that works for each of us has been a bit of a challenge. But here we are. I am the only one using this. This is 100% because I'm essentially the project manager. And I
Okay.
needed something where I could quickly glance to see what the status and what we have and have not done on all of these different things.
Okay.
Um, so these are my notes. These
So
are
this is a
my
peek into how your brain works.
It really is. Yeah. So
Yeah.
these are my annotations, which is just keywords for this article, stuff like that. So I could like open this up and then I can just scroll through and look at anything and make any changes or
Mhm.
updates that I want to make. And then when I go back to my card or to the overview, I can come here, scroll through, scroll through. It was hard to say. To see anything that needs to be done next. So like this right here, I put this project was finished today. So I marked it as project complete and I will archive it today at the end of the day. And
So those, okay, is a lot of this manual keying?
it's all manual.
It's
Yeah.
all manual. Okay.
100%. Which I learned that one of the reason, let me find it. Hold on. Here it is. I learned that for my brain to retain and project manage all this, I needed some manual.
Oh,
I
okay.
started by writing it all in a book.
Okay.
So there's no way I expect anybody to read this, but I just wanted to say I had a notebook and I started writing it all down. But the problem that I ran into with paper is that I can't link to anything,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
So it's an, I feel that when thinking things through, it's easier to do manual entry instead of automated entry. Um, but the obvious flaw when you're a blogger is that you need to link to a lot of things. Like everything in purple here is a link.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed to be able to link to these things and reference
Right.
them. Um, and I can't do that on paper, obviously. But at the same time, I wanted some kind of manual entry to make my brain recall because just doing everything automated doesn't help me get an overview of where things are at.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Have you found that does it feel inefficient to do it manually? I'm not saying that it is. I'm asking if you feel that it's inefficient or do you think it's just part of your process?
I think that's a really good question. I don't find it to be inefficient.
Okay.
I find it to be almost required.
Well, because like you said, like the manual process helps you retain what is being done, the things that are connected to it. It's
Hmm.
almost like it's another way to input the information because it's already in your head and then you're putting it onto something and then
Hmm.
you're reabsorbing it like after you put it all down. So it's almost like a reinforcement of what you're doing.
Well, it is. And I think too, like for example, let me see if I can find one here. Let me see. Okay. A good example is like this pin one date.
Mm-hmm.
Putting this in pin one, what that means is that means nothing to anyone else. It's just purely for me.
Uh-huh.
We are using a new method of promoting our articles on Pinterest this year. And I need to track if the method is working. And it takes usually on average anywhere from 16 weeks to 6 months to really know if what you're doing is going to work, right? But
Yeah.
when did that date start? So I needed to track that pin one date.
Okay.
But I didn't want to just write that down and have it go automated in there. I wanted to I wanted to hear from my team when it was first pin was put up. I want to know what the first pin is. I want to go into Pinterest and I want to look at it. And so there's a lot of activity there that can't be quantified if this was automated for me.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So this is a hint to go take action and
Okay.
to review the work that was done
Right.
and make sure that everything looks right because we're hinging our entire business on this thing working. So even though I'm filling out that date manually, I'm also using that as a trigger to go verify, review,
Yeah.
make sure everything's working properly,
Yeah.
make
It's like
sure
your quality
everything
control.
exactly. Yeah. So if that was just automated, then I wouldn't have any trigger to tell me to do that. It wouldn't
Right.
feel
Yeah.
as tangible to it, you know?
Okay.
And here's another good example. Like this is Cinco de Mayo. So obviously I don't want to put this on Facebook right now, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I have a reminder on 54 days from now on April 16th to go put the first post up. And then on April 28th, I'm going to go run ads on Facebook for that.
Okay. All right.
So,
Well, this is such a great example of how different things work for different people and why it's so important that whenever you're trying to find something that works, right?
hmm
It's one thing to go out and see, oh, this is working for these people. Let me try to stuff myself into that box.
hmm
Like, yeah, go ahead and try it, but like do it in a way that you would use it, not how everybody else is using it. Because that's the other thing. If you start a new process or system or, like this, like you build a dashboard or whatever, if you don't use it the way that your brain works to use it, you're not going to use it.
Yeah, I agree. And I went through so many iterations
Yeah.
of trying to figure out how to do this from spreadsheets to, and by the way, I ended up here only because I started writing it all down in my notebook. I was like, what do I need? What am
Hmm.
I struggling? Why am I losing my mind every day? I was completely losing track because I mean, if you go back to this, there's a lot happening here. It doesn't look like it. It's pretty streamlined looking, but
Yeah.
um I need to post this on April 16th. I need to post this on April 28th. This was done on January 29th. I published the article on January 23rd. The board I created on January 29th, you know.
Hmm.
Um, and this
See, and
is
I
one
think
of the
this is
first ones.
this is another great example of how we need to have different forms of accessibility
Hmm.
just available because not everybody absorbs or regurgitates information the same way.
Right.
And it reminds me of there was an interview with Pedro Pascal. Do you know the actor Pedro
Oh
Pascal?
yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. So there was a little interview where he was showing I think he was like with Kieran Culkin too. But they were showing or he was showing how he memorizes his lines. And he goes and finds his notebook. So like you, he grabs his notebook, he opens it up, and then he doesn't even want to show it at first because he's like, I don't know how you guys are going to react to this because this only makes sense to me.
Hmm.
And then he shows his notebook, and his notebook looks like it's in hieroglyphics. Like his notebook looks like he has hieroglyphics. Now it is the alphabet. It is the Roman alphabet, right? Um, but it's all in like columns. And the way that he was trying to explain it was when he learns lines, the way that he learns it is by writing down the first letter of every word of the lines that he needs to memorize, but
Wow.
he does it in a strategic way. So it's almost like he made his own memory castle, or what is it? Memory building, whatever that is. There's a
Sure.
technique where people have the ability to retain huge amounts of information like very quickly and then recite it accurately because of their process of pulling that information. So, like with the I can't remember what it's actually called. I think it's called like the memory castle or something like that.
Huh.
But
Yeah.
but essentially, like if you're going to memorize, for example, the number pi, okay? So like I only memorized 3.14.
Yeah.
That's
Me
it.
too.
I don't know any other numbers after that. There are people that know, I mean, they could keep going, right?
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
and it's
Yeah.
because in their memory palace or memory castle or whatever it is, each thing that they need to memorize is associated with something in that memory palace. So like
Yeah.
3.14, and then they open the door, and then there's, two people sitting at a couch. Okay, so the next number is two. And then, they walk up the stairs and every fourth step is missing. Okay, so the next number is four. But they're doing this so quickly, like they're processing it so quickly, and then they can remember it accurately because it's almost like they just have to memorize the story, like their path through
Yeah.
the castle, right? Or
That's
through the house or
fascinating.
whatever. Yeah. It's a crazy technique. I will I will check myself
Yeah.
and I'll put the resource because I have the book. Like I'm so fascinated by this like memory um
Hmm.
technique. Obviously, COVID brain is making me it's making it difficult for me to remember things right
Yeah.
now because I'm like, even words are hard. I'm just um, like a castle or a house. It's a thing that you go into.
Right. Fascinating. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, it took me a long time to get to this dashboard.
Hmm.
And to your point, Andy just she would stop blogging before she would use this. It just absolutely would not happen. So let me see if I can show what I am doing for her.
And see,
I'll have to
that's one
stop.
of the reasons why I love the tools that allow you to switch views. Like it can take the data that you've put into it,
Hmm.
and then it can show it to you in different ways. So, for example,
Yeah.
inside
Well,
of
here, even
ClickUp,
this can do that.
yeah, so inside of ClickUp, you've got the similar like Trello style boards where each thing is a card, right? So you've got your
Hmm.
cards and then you've got a board layout. But if you decide, I want to look at it as a list, yeah, you can edit the view and then look at it as a list. Or if you want to look at it like as a Gantt chart, you only want to see it like these are the things, and then here's the
Hmm.
date frames that each thing is needs to be completed and what's dependent on what. Yeah, I love that you can flip between all the different views. Like you don't have to get stuck in
Right.
a
And
specific view.
here's
Yeah.
that. Yeah. I love that too. I think it's great. And this would show me more data, by the way, but I really like the cards,
Yeah.
the grid.
The
Yeah.
grid. Yeah. Yeah, because
Yeah.
that's how your mind sees that, and it's like, okay, this is calm to me.
Yeah,
When you
exactly.
switched it to the list, like it triggered my anxiety.
Did it really?
It did a little
Why?
bit because all of a sudden it looked like an insurmountable number of tasks.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas something
Well,
like
it
this,
is. I mean, and that's what's
well,
funny
yeah,
is,
it
yeah,
is, but it's the whole like uh taking small chunks, right? You
sure.
you
Yeah.
take small bites. You don't
Yeah.
eat the whole thing in one go. You take small bites. So this is a small bite view. It's like, oh,
Right.
look, there's only, I mean, I see that one says plus 32 more, but that doesn't overwhelm me because I'm looking at this at a glance.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think it's very useful. So I'll show you what I'm doing for Andy. Because I think it's kind of
You have
interesting.
it in a completely different place?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Let me
So
show you.
you're doing the work multiple times.
Hold on. Yes, yes. But I'm getting it a lot more
Ooh,
done, a lot faster.
okay.
Hold on. Let me
Well,
see.
that concerns me.
Well, it really shouldn't, and I'll explain. Okay.
I have to cut my bangs.
Yeah, I noticed they're getting long.
They're so long.
So this is a new project that I just kicked off.
Okay.
Um, Comfort food recipes.
Sure.
And so this is inside of Slack. And here I create a project overview. And this fits Andy's brain. And, but it works out really well. And why it's not exactly a duplication is because I consider it the project kickoff. And whenever I'm trying to figure out a project, I can, a lot of times, I will write it out in either my Two's app or my Apple Notes,
Mm-hmm.
because I have to think through what's involved in a project, right? So
Mm-hmm.
this will be a little insight into my blogging. If anybody, wants to steal anything, they can do that, I guess. Um, so the project overview is our CO number, which is our tracking number for articles.
Mm-hmm.
So this will be article 3,513.
That's
It's comfort
insane.
food recipes. Here's the project description. This is a roundup with 2 new recipes. Here is the link to the Trello card in the Google Drive. This is important because Andy, in order for her brain to be able to work on this, she needs all this information. But I have to put all this information together before I can actually
Mm-hmm.
work on this. It
Okay.
literally can't be done without this data. So I could either keep it in my Apple Notes or put it here. So
Okay.
these are all the recipes in this roundup. These 2 are new recipes that I got to write the articles for. I literally was writing bourbon chicken article before this call. Here are
Okay.
all the keywords, and that's everything. So this is what Andy needs in order to participate in this project.
Very cool.
So hopefully that's not too alarming because you kind of got to kick off a project, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So sorry, I'm yawning. I'm congested. Um, so that's how I kick it off for her.
That's really cool.
Hmm.
Well, and it doesn't look like a duplicate of what you had in the other
No,
dashboard.
it's not.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, because that's what I was concerned about, that you were just taking exactly the same thing, but then just rearranging like how it's present. But that actually is a different thing that you've
It
put
is.
together.
Yeah.
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 It has
Yeah, it's totally fine.
similar information, but it has the key information that she needs.
Right. That's the information to create the content. The information that I have in my dashboard is to track the creation of the
Yeah.
content. Right. And that was where for a long time I kept trying to merge those 2 things together, but really they're completely different things.
Yeah.
And the conversations that you and I had helped me figure that out. So,
Oh, great.
yeah. So that's my process. And
I'm
that's
just
what
a
I.
sounding board.
Oh, I think you're a little more than that.
A little bit.
So, anything else you want to ask or say about that?
No, I think it's great. Like I love the way that you have it broken out for the different members of the team, and
Hmm.
explaining your logic through it. It totally makes sense.
Yeah.
And
Cool.
again,
Good.
it's a great example that like what works for one person may not work for another, but also just do it the way that you will continue using it.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, our methods are working if we've published nearly 3,500 articles. So,
Yeah, right? Exactly.
yeah. Um,
That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot.
it is a lot. Yeah. Okay. The next thing I had on our list, oh, I skipped one, but we'll go back. The Facebook post that I put on our Facebook page today.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Um, I wanted to talk about it. So, um, let me see. I'm going to share my screen again.
Yeah.
Okay. So, hopefully you see that.
Yep.
I think I saw this today in a newsletter that I subscribe to, and I thought it was particularly interesting. And before we even talk about the post, I'm still trying to digest it. But the interesting thing that I did was I'm testing out Google Gemini a little bit, using it because I don't normally use it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also today playing around a little bit with Grok,
Okay.
the Twitter AI thing, or X AI.
I don't
But
use Twitter.
anyway, so yeah. Sorry. So I took the article and the snippet that was in the newsletter that I received about this Google policy change
Okay.
and put it in Google Gemini and asked it to explain it to me. And this is what Google Gemini said. And I thought this was interesting because asking Google about Google kind
Yeah.
of cracked me up a little bit.
Very meta.
So, yeah, very,
Asking
very.
Google about Google is meta.
So, Google is changing how it tracks users online. Instead of relying on cookies, which are small files stored in your browser, Google will now use a technique called fingerprinting. First of all, that's creepy. Um,
Mm.
this involves collecting various pieces of information about your device, such as your IP address, browser type, operating system, and hardware settings to create a unique profile of your device. Just
The
stopping
device
right there.
itself?
Yeah. So it's going to profile the devices that you use. And I think that's wild. Um, and then it says Google claims. I love how Google claims when it's Google telling me this.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't know why, but
It's
that's
not
just the
very
youth in me.
self-aware.
Yeah, Google claims that this new method is necessary because cookies are becoming less effective as people use more devices and browsers. I think that is interesting because do you remember the cookie apocalypse?
Mm-hmm.
And then they canceled the cookie apocalypse. Well, it
Yep.
sounds like people themselves are now making the Google thing or the cookie thing not as relevant. So, fingerprinting allows Google to track users across different platforms, such as smart TVs and gaming consoles, where cookies are not as widely used.
Hmm.
First of all, I think what struck me the most about this was I assumed that was already happening.
Oh, yeah.
So to me, none of this surprised me because I thought, and then as a creator, I'm excited because to me, the more that we can figure out what people care about, the easier it'll be to serve them ads so
Mm-hmm.
that the internet remains mostly free. Which, by the way, if you hate ads, then pay people. You
Right.
can't have it free and no ads.
Yep.
So I'm a proponent of free,
Yeah.
and so that means you're going to get ads, and that's just how life works because we
Yep.
all have bills to pay. So anyway, I just thought it was kind of an interesting thing. Today's the first I'd heard about this.
Yeah.
Um,
That is really interesting because like as everyone is aware at this point, I have a Google phone. Like my phone is a Pixel.
mhm. Yeah,
Um, I do not have an iPhone. Um, so Google's already like intertwined in everything that I do and use.
yeah,
Um, and then on my MacBook, I use Google Chrome browser as my primary
me
browser
too.
for
Me too.
everything work related. So like, does this mean that even though it is an Apple device that I'm on, because I'm using Google Chrome, it is now actually getting the data from the device itself, even though Apple's
I don't
infrastructure is pretty
know.
locked down?
Yeah, and I'm really curious about that too. And
Like, is it specific to mobile devices like or like phones and iPads or
well, it
tablets?
said TV and gaming
Oh,
devices. So
TV and gaming devices too, yeah.
so like I watch every night, or just about every single night, I watch TV. And
Mm-hmm.
then when I start to get tired and I don't feel like I can like really enjoy the show anymore, I switch. So I'm getting close to going to bed, but I'm not ready to go to bed.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm very routine oriented. And so I switch my TV to YouTube and
Okay.
I at least flip through the YouTube headlines
Right,
and
right.
usually watch a couple of YouTube videos um, before I go to bed. And so I assume that because since YouTube is owned by Google,
Mm-hmm.
that they're somehow able from there to get information about what I'm doing on my TV, is what I'm assuming from that.
Yeah.
And then
You
they'll
know,
use that to target my advertising.
Yeah. It's kind of scary that like, not just you, but we all thought that that was already happening.
Yeah.
And now that they're saying, "Oh, this will happen," it's it's almost like a complacency thing. It's like, well, I already thought you were doing it, so what's the big deal? But also, privacy is not real. Like we have no privacy.
No, there is no such thing as
Yeah, there's
privacy.
no such thing as privacy. So all of the people that are going to be like, but my privacy, my rights to, my rights to privacy or my rights to my data or whatever. It's like you gave away your data a long, long time ago. Unless you're completely off the grid, your data is out there somewhere. Like
You
they
know,
have your data.
this reminds me of a funny thing that I used to see a lot on Facebook. I haven't seen it recently. Maybe it's finally gone away. Is that whole thing where, Facebook wants to use
Oh no,
your
it hasn't gone
images.
away. You've just curated your the people you've just
Yeah.
curated your feed to only show you
Y-
the people that don't fall for that.
It's funny that you immediately knew what I was
I
talking
knew
about.
what you were talking about.
Yeah. Um, that cracks me up every time I see it.
Hmm.
Every time.
Yep.
Um, there hasn't been privacy since you signed up for Facebook.
Yeah. And that was back in
Yeah.
college.
Right. Right. So,
Oh my gosh. I'm so old.
well, honey, let me tell you, I was out of college. So, yeah, well out of college. Um,
Oh, goodness.
yeah. There is no privacy. It's gone. That
Yeah.
doesn't exist. So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, part of that too is, like I mentioned before, I removed all social media from my mobile device, right?
oh
So,
God, I keep forgetting you did that.
yeah, so when I log on, like if I respond to you on Facebook or Instagram, it's because I'm doing it from my computer.
Oh,
Every now and then, I will pull it up on the web browser, like my mobile browser, but it is so kludgy to do it that way.
yeah, that's
Like
horrible.
it's not a good experience to do it that way that I just go in, I respond to the messages that I know are waiting for me, and then I'm out. Like I don't even scroll.
So, what are you doing on your phone now?
Keeping track of the books that I'm reading,
Really? Is that really about
texting
it?
people, using it to call people, like talk on the
Oh
phone.
my God, I didn't think you're a millennial. I didn't think you called people.
Yeah. Well, apparently I do when social media isn't on my phone.
Hold
Um
on. That reminds me of something.
Yeah, so I have absolutely been using it more for, like I said, tracking because I have a book app, like a book tracking app.
Which I signed up for last night.
So that has like the highest usage of all of my apps because I like to keep track of the time that I'm reading.
So, in that app, okay. All right, hold on. I'm going to open that app up because I just signed up for it right before I went to bed last night.
Uh-huh.
So when you pick up a book, so like if I'm reading a Kindle book, you can't, I guess here's what I'm asking. Can you connect Kindle to this or
No,
do you have to manually input?
everything is manual input. And
Got it.
I understand that, the convenience of Kindle and Goodreads being together, like they integrate and they communicate with each other. It's super convenient. But one of the things that I love about this specific app, it's called Bookmori, um, is the fact that it's just data stored on your phone. Like you can back it up to the cloud, but like you have to provide your own cloud storage, whether that's Google Drive or I iCloud. I was like,
Hmm.
what's the Apple one? Yeah, so you have to link it to your own like cloud storage or whatever. But it is your data. And there's something kind of beautiful about collecting this information just for me
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then and then you have the ability to share it. Like you can share your book calendar and then post it on social media or whatever. But it's not like an automatic thing. There's no like community aspect to it. It is a very individual thing. And I kind of love it because it's
Yeah.
so individual. Like I find that I'm making notes like while I'm reading, I'm making notes, but the notes are for me because it's
Yeah.
not being shared with anyone and
That's
it doesn't
interesting.
mean anything to anybody else. It's almost like it's a very freeing aspect of removing ego out of something that I love for me.
Yeah.
Like I read for me. I don't read for anybody else. I read because I enjoy reading. Now, I will share my opinions of the things that I read with everybody else, but I'm not going to let that stop me from reading or reading what I want, you know?
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. Is that a really weird thing? It might be. I could just
No. No, it's very
again, it could be
human.
my COVID riddled brain is like, no, you just
No.
need to disconnect.
Well, this is why I have this pulled up on the screen here because we've been talking about this a lot. We feel like we use our phones too much.
Way too
And
much.
so, have you seen this phone that I have pulled up on the screen?
I have not. I thought it was a power bank.
Yeah, it's a phone. So, here, let me show you.
Interesting. So is it like,
So, okay. So, currently available tools: alarm, timer, calculator, calendar, a directory of, your people,
mm-hmm.
directions, notes, voice memo, and a simple music or podcast player. But that is not connected to any other platforms. You would have to upload your music. Sound familiar? Um, so there's no streaming, there's no Spotify, there's no WhatsApp, there's no rideshare, um, none of that.
Interesting.
But here's the most important part: the light phone will never have social media, internet browsing, email, news, or ads. There are no infinite feeds.
Oh,
So you can't do any of those things on this phone.
wow.
So, and I just think, man, that's really interesting until immediately I think about the fact that just last week, I think it was, I got the Ring doorbell installed.
Uh-huh.
Um, I've been reading, I've now read 2 books on the Kindle app on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I control, I control my sprinkler system through my phone.
Yeah.
Um, so it's like all of a sudden I realize there's all these things. My Tavala app, that is my oven, that how we cook our food, is through my phone. Um, my car, my car runs through my phone. I mean,
Yeah, that's
so it's like suddenly you realize, wait a minute, this thing is actually quite useful.
yeah.
So I don't know. But I thought that was interesting because thinking about how much we use our phones, and then you have to realize it's just me. It's just me. It's just me wanting to be, my brain wants to
Yeah.
be distracted. It
Hmm.
wants to be distracted. Please distract me with something fun.
Well, I mean, like if you think about it, what I just traded one distraction for another, So instead of aimlessly scrolling social media, I just traded that time that I aimlessly scrolled Instagram or TikTok or whatever it is to reading a book
And
or multiple
that is
books.
such a good point because reading a book, yay you, that's awesome, except, and maybe the answer is perfectly fine. This is no judgment on you. I don't know the answer to this question. Is that what you think you should be doing with your time?
No, it's what I want to do.
Right. And so if you can get away with what you want to do, that's perfectly fine. But here's what I mean. Like in my case, I'm trying to bring our blog back. So
Mm-hmm.
my time is supposed to be about creating content, getting content published and distributed.
Yeah.
Full stop. So that could be putting it on Facebook. That could be putting it on, in the
Yeah.
newsletter. It could be a lot of things that entails. But if I'm doing something such as obsessively reading about the latest airline crash, um, you
Don't
know,
say that. I'm getting on a plane next week. Come on.
I know our daughter is flying so much right now, and I'm just like, oh my god,
Yeah.
okay. Um, but when I'm doing those things, that reading of any type, I am not creating content and
Yeah.
distributing content. And that's what I need to do right now. So, yay me that I've read two books, but or I've, educated myself on this topic or whatever this thing is, but if it's not related to content, it's not what I should be doing.
Sure.
And so my struggle is what I should be doing is hard because, like I said before, I won't know the results of the work for maybe 6 months from now. So I have to do
Right.
all of this work with the hope that I'm doing the right thing. And that's really hard.
Yeah.
And so it's so much easier to read an article or learn about a new topic or, whatever it is, anything that my brain is like distract, distract, distract.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so
Well,
in
and
the
I
end,
think
it's not
that's
the phone,
where,
it's me.
well, that's where that work-life balance thing comes into play. Like
Sure.
you need to figure out what your balance or integration is going to be, because balance means that you give up one thing for the other, but
Mm-hmm.
integration means that you combine it. Like you figure out how to make it all work together. And
Sure.
sometimes you can't. Like you have to give up something for
Yeah.
the other thing.
Yeah.
So there's no wrong way, you know, but there's also no right way. It's just what works for you in that moment or in
Right.
that time, in that situation. Um, oh, that just reminds me of the what is it? The four agreements.
Don't know what that is.
The four agreements.
Yeah.
You always keep your word. You always do your best, but with a caveat, you always do your best in in the situation that you are in. So if your best in that moment is 20%, then that's your best.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
But then another day, your best is 100% or 120%. And then that's your best, because it depends on the situation that you are in that moment. So it changes. So when you say, I'm going to do my best, you have to give yourself grace, because your best is not always the same.
That makes sense. That I say the same thing about marriage. Marriage is never 50-50.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
absolutely not. Yeah.
Sometimes it's 80-20. Sometimes it's 20-80. Sometimes it's 30-60. And 10% is still missing somewhere. Um,
Well, yeah.
yeah. But that's why you're married, so that you have those balances.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. So
Oh, the
going
other
back
two,
to,
I was going to
oh,
say,
yes.
just to wrap it up, the other two agreements are don't make assumptions and don't take anything personally. Those are the two that I always forget.
My
And
God.
it's not even that I forget them. It's just that they're so low on the totem pole for me, because the don't take anything personally, it's like, okay, well, I'll remember to tell myself that, like in the moment, right? And then same thing with don't make assumptions, because you're like, okay, I'm assuming this is what you meant, but let me clarify that. It's the always do your best. That's the one, it's the giving myself grace that I have trouble with. So I
Mm,
always have to remind myself, okay, always do your best, but it's doing your best in the moment with the situation that you're in, with the tools that you have in front of you, like that's what doing your best is. So that's just me personally. I need to constantly remind myself of that. But I just wanted to close that four agreements loop.
Yeah, no, that's really good. I like that. I don't feel like I've heard that before. I like that.
Yeah.
Um, the book that I finished, I don't want to go too deep into this, but the book that I finished last night may be the one that I texted you about, the
Uh-huh.
crash. Yeah.
Yeah.
May be the best example of don't make assumptions I have ever read in my life. I can't stop thinking about it. Um,
Nice. I
yeah,
added it
and
to my TBR, which is so long.
I'm sure. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, so going back to what I asked you, you've replaced your scrolling habit with a reading habit.
Hmm.
And I asked you, is that what you should be doing with your time? And you said no, which surprises me. Um, but are you at least, do you feel better about that time use compared to
Hmm.
scrolling?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
I know that there are things that I need to do, but I am choosing to not do that right away and just like spend more
You know
time
what, though? Do you think we should
with
be
my story.
redefining need?
Um, I mean, yeah.
And I say that because I think we all have this hurried rush, we're always busy thing happening. And we've talked about this before, how I feel about that.
Hmm.
I am choosing to spend my time hyper focused on work right now.
Right.
And I keep having to have this conversation with family members explaining that, because like somebody reached out and said, I'm just worried about you working so much. And I said, don't be. I've never been happier.
Right, right.
I said, I'm eating healthy. I exercise every day unless it's, like 30 degrees or below. Um, and then I sit my ass in this chair. Um, I sleep. I don't use an alarm. I go to
Hmm.
bed when I'm tired and I get up when I'm awake, except for last night when I woke up at 4 a.m. God only knows why. Um, but, and I have defined downtime.
Yeah.
So it's like it's just a matter of choosing your time. But I think that we all have this need of all these things we feel like we need to be doing, but they're actually not needs. If you don't put away the laundry, it's not going to catch on fire,
Right. Yeah.
you know? Is your house more tidy if you put away the laundry? Of course. But do you need to put away the laundry? Probably not. But we all
Right.
have these, and that's a really baseline example, but
Yeah.
um, the needs are much more base than that. And
Hmm.
we have started defaulting the word need to assign to a lot of tasks. And I don't think that's very healthy.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, just to kind of go back to need, like, really, is there anything that you need to do other than what you need to survive, which is eat? Like, you need food, you need shelter,
Yeah.
you need clothes, right?
Most of us need to work. We have a job that we have to do.
Right.
But
But again, like if you really wanted to go philosophical on it, right? Like, okay, so you need to work, but isn't the work that you need to do also just made up?
oh, don't even get me started on that. My whole life is invisible. If you
Well,
think
right,
about it, it's
exactly.
intangible, I should say.
So, yeah, so that's what I mean. Like when you are given a deadline, right? Like deadlines are arbitrary. Like people just make up a deadline.
I know. Andy and I have this conversation all the
Everything is
time
made up.
because she's
Nothing is
deadline
real.
driven and she'll be like, okay, I know I have these articles to do, but I need you to give me a deadline. And I'm like, how do I do that? This is all made up by me
Yeah,
and made up by you. How do I give you a deadline on something that is infinite, you
right.
know? And then I'll just be like, okay, I need it by Monday. And then she'll be like, why? And I'll be like, because you told me to give you a deadline, you know? And it's
And then
kind of
that turns
funny.
into a because I said so.
Right, exactly. And then suddenly I'm like, uh-oh, is my wife mad at me?
Oh my
You know,
goodness. Yeah, yeah.
it's funny. Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting. Um, what an interesting topic.
Yeah. But
Mm,
that's what I'm saying, like we spend so much time of our lives just stressing
I
over
know.
things that at the end of the day, I mean, it really doesn't matter. Because I look back and I think about moments where I was like, man, I was like super stressed during that time period. I know that I wasn't sleeping well. I was staying at work late. I was doing this, I was doing that. Like everything was completely unhealthy. But if I think about the reason why I was so stressed, I'm like, I don't even remember. I just remember feeling that way. And then the consequences of being so stressed out. But I don't remember why. I don't remember what it was about. I mean, obviously, if it was work related, it's like, okay, it was a deadline for something, right? But like, did people die? Did I?
Well, you do
No.
work in the medical field. Did people die?
Well, but not in emergency medical
Okay.
field. Okay.
Well, I mean, very rarely would I be able to ask someone that question. So,
But, like
yeah.
honestly, you think about it and it's like, okay, well, why was it so important? Why was I putting that much pressure on myself on something that here we are, however far down the line, and I don't even remember what the hell it was.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, I feel like I try to keep a really good eye on that because, and this is the beauty of having a goal that
Mhm.
drives you, a passionate goal too. Um, and so I think if you attach your things that you feel like you need to be spending time on to the why, it
Mhm.
helps you feel better
Yeah.
about spending the time,
Yeah.
right? If it's all driven by external forces, then I think it's really difficult to stay engaged with it and feel good about it. I mean, like,
Right.
I get the opportunity every day, every day. I get to wake up and try to grow this blog. And I have a hard deadline where I will run out of money if I don't
Hmm.
reach it, which is what
Right.
drives me to work really
Yeah.
hard. But it's an amazing opportunity.
Yeah.
And now, if I fail, ooh, God, that's going to be bad.
Yeah.
But I don't know. We'll see what that happens. But the point is, so when everybody's like, "Oh, I'm worried about how much you're working," I'm like, "Well, how many hours do you work?"
Right.
Because I suspect there are some, probably maybe even more hours, but they're unhappy hours.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, uh, but I do have one thing that makes me sad.
What's that?
I lost 20,000 people.
Yeah. Okay. So you need to talk about that while I sneeze and mute
Yeah.
myself.
Okay. So I've been growing my newsletter list for a long time for Cooking Chew, and I love you.
Sorry.
That's okay. I have come
Thank
to
you, by the
accept,
way.
yeah, that not everybody wants to be blessed because not everybody shares the same
Yeah.
ideas as me. So, but everybody can use love. So,
Everyone can use love.
yeah. Anyway, so I have not ever cleaned my list. And according to all of my tools, 20,000 people in my newsletter are considered cold.
Ugh.
So I'm cleaning my list today. And it's one of the most painful things that I have ever done. And I am so sad. So sad. But
Yeah.
I'm paying for those 20,000 people to be
Yes, you
there.
sure are.
Yeah. And a lot of this, I think, happened because of the changes that were made with email last year.
Hmm. Yeah, the
And so,
DKIM stuff.
but I've done everything I can to re-engage, to get them in the right inbox and all that stuff. And so I have to let them go. I have downloaded all of their emails, so I still have them because I did obtain them properly.
Yeah,
Um, so I might slowly reintroduce some of them at a
sure.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm segregating them into the dead pile for now.
Yeah.
And I'm heartbroken because that is so many.
That is a lot.
Yeah.
But also, how many do you have on your list?
45,000?
Yeah, see?
Yeah.
And then
So,
you're gonna watch your open rates increase, your
sure.
click-throughs, like because
A healthy
just like
list
with
grows
it,
faster.
yeah, and with any class, the ones that don't do anything drag the average grade down. So
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Oh. So I just thought I would be transparent and talk about that because I don't think
yeah,
enough people are that kind of transparent about stuff.
yeah.
And yeah. So
See, and I'm
sad,
like
sad day.
the opposite. Like I grow my list so slowly. I think right now my email list is like 100 something people.
That's great though. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah, but also I know that my list, like I'm gonna have an 80% open rate
Man,
minimum.
that's incredible.
And that's
That's
just because,
incredible.
yeah, because I only have people on my list that I know actually want to hear from me. So
Yeah, yeah.
now I also don't reach out to them regularly. So
Yeah, I send daily emails. So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So it's a little bit different.
absolutely. So, well, that's everything I have.
Great.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna take some medicine now
Mm-hmm.
because I'm
That's
getting all
wise.
like head
Yeah.
congested again.
Yeah.
It only lasts a couple of hours, like the relief, and
What are you
um
taking?
I'm taking Theraflu because
Oh,
I'm
okay.
not I'm not high risk enough for Paxlovid.
Mm-hmm.
So I've just been taking Theraflu and, basically over the counter managing the congestion, sore throat, headaches, body aches, and fever. Fever's
Mm.
gone, body aches are gone,
Oh,
headaches
good.
there, but manageable. And then the sore throat is just because of drainage. So,
Mm.
yeah, I mean, I'm not I'm not upset about it.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Well,
But
I hope you
yeah,
feel better.
thank you. I feel so much better than I have been. So
Well,
like,
I hope you feel 100% soon. How about that?
thank you. I hope so too. And
Yeah.
very soon.
Yes. Yes, totally.
All right. Well, if you guys
Okay.
have
Well,
stuck around with us, thank you so much.
yeah.
And I guess we'll see you guys next time.
Yes, we will.